Hi everyone, I am Balaji Chippada and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In continuation of our SQL series, in this video we are going to learn a very complex topic and very interesting topic as well called nested queries or sub queries. There are multiple names to this one, but we will try to break this down into very simple terms and understand and visualize how it works internally. It is going to be a little bit lengthy video, so just hang on. I will explain it in detail with examples, and then we will also try that in multiple variations as well, and then we will execute that inside our workbench and understand how it works. So without any delay, let's get started. Let's say you were given a task to design this IMDb web page in which you have the movie title at the top. I am taking an example movie called 100 Dessins de Sauce. I might be pronouncing wrong, but let's get on with the flow. And it is released in the year 1996. And I can get this information from my movies table. That is good. But if you look at this section of the web page, I have a section called cast in which I have all the actor names, the first name and the last name, and what is the designation of that actor in this movie. So how can I get this information? Because in my IMDb dataset, if you remember, we have the data in multiple tables. I have movies name in another table and I have actors name in another table. So how can I do it? So that is where either joins comes into picture, or you can get this task by using a concept called nested queries or subqueries. So let's say you are given this task of listing out all the names of the actors who have played in the movie titled 100 Dessins de Sauce. So let's break this down and understand how you can solve this task. So as the first task is to filter out for this movie, right? So I need a table called movies table, and second, I need a table in which I can get the actors details. That is where we have actors table. And third, why am I mentioning third is we need to have a link between these two, right? If there is no link, how are you going to retrieve the information? If you remember our table standardization, we have the data in multiple tables, table 1, table 2, table 3, and we have to link between all of these tables. I have listed down three tables, which is our actors table and movies table and roles table. Now let's understand the link between these tables. So from the first table, I can get the first name and last name without any issues. So that is good. So I need this table for sure. And from the second table, which is movies table, I need to have the name of the movie because we need to filter for this movie, right? So even this table is mandatory for me. But if you look at it, this id and this id is not connected. So how are you going to connect these two tables? So that is where we have another table called roles, in which we have actor id and movie id and the role. So if I have to talk about the linking of this one, this actor table id is linked to this actor id, and this movie id is linked to this movie id from this roles table. So, how to achieve our task? How to list all the names of actors who have acted in this movie? So, first, what I would do is I would link these two tables. So, how to link? We have a method called join, right? And I will join on this one and this one, movie ID and this ID. And I will also do a condition of where equal to. I will add this movie title 100 days since whatever it could be. So I will just link both of these tables, and I will do a where condition of adding this condition, and on top of the resultant table I will go and join the first table on this id and this actor id. So this is going to be a little bit tricky. This is like a three-way join. We are joining three tables. So let's understand this in SQL. So this is my SQL query. And if you notice, I'm using three tables, which is actors, roles, and movies. So this is a three table join. So we haven't learned about three table join in our previous videos, right? So I will take my time to explain in detail how this three table join will work. Now let's read out our SQL query and understand what is happening here. I'm doing select a dot first name and a dot last name. Let's forget about this a little bit, and then we will assume that we are doing select star. It will be easy for you to understand star first, and then we will do a filtering on later on. And I'm using a table called actors table, and actors table is having four columns: id, first name, last name, and gender. and I'm giving alias name as A, and then I'm doing a join on roles table called R. So alias name is R. This is having three columns: actor ID, movie ID, and role. And on which I'm doing a join? I'm doing a join of A dot ID, which is this one, is equal to R dot actor ID, which is this one. So this, on these two columns, the join will be happening. So let's understand the first join first, and then we will expand it to the next join. So if I do a join on these two tables and I'm doing a select star, so in the output table, what I would get? I would get ID, first name, last name, and then gender. So these are all the columns from my first table, right? And then because I'm doing a join on roles table, I would also get these columns, right? So I will have actor ID and movie ID and then role. So these are all my columns that I would get if I do this first join. And this ID and this actor ID columns will be having the same values because we are doing a join on this one. So this is my resultant table. Let's assume this is called T. Now what are we doing? We are doing a join on movies M. So on top of this table T, we are doing a join of this table movies, and I am giving alias name as M. And here if I do a join and I'm doing a select star, I will also get these columns, right? So I will have ID, movie, year, and rank score. So these will be added to my table. So here I am doing on which column? R dot movie ID equal to M dot ID, and R dot movie ID is already inside my table T, right? Because we already have movie ID inside this from the first join. And why are we using R dot movie ID? Because I have given an alias name as R. So I will treat this as R dot movie ID is equal to M dot ID. So this movie ID will be treated to this one. So if you look at these three joins, I'm connecting these three tables using three different columns from three different tables. By using all the joins, I'm doing an inner join. So the data that I will get will be for all the records, right? But what is my goal? I want to find out the data for only this movie. So on top of this table, I have a column called movie here. I will filter this by using a where condition. I will say where m dot name equal to desin desos. So I will do a where condition and I will get the output. So this is for select star. But what am I doing? I am doing only select first name and last name. And this first name and last name are from which table? Actors table, which is of alias A. So I am selecting only A dot first name, A dot last name, and I can select as many other columns as I want, but I'm just only selecting these two such that I will get all the actors who have acted in this movie called 100 Decins Desos. Hopefully that is clear. It is a little bit complex, so I would suggest you to sit down, take a pen and paper, and do this activity by yourself such that you will link everything. So what I will do is I will just rephrase it once again quickly so that it will be easy for you to understand. I am selecting A dot first name, A dot last name from actors table A. This is my actors table A, and I'm doing a join, inner join on roles table R, and on which I'm doing a joining, these two I'm doing a join. And on top of the resultant table, this is my resultant table, let's assume, I'm doing one more join on movies table, and I'm using this movie ID and this ID, right? So I get output like this, and on top of this output I will be doing a where condition, and I'm saying 100 decins desos. So likewise you can change whatever movie here you want, and you get all the information of all the actors who has acted in this movie. So this is how you can achieve the task using joins. And this is like a generalization, guys. No matter how many tables you have, if you have a connecting column in all of these tables, you can use as many joins as you can. You just need to visualize how it is going to work. Hopefully that is clear. But is there any other way to solve this without joins? Yes. So that is where nested queries comes into picture. You can call them as subqueries, or there are so many names to it, but we can use it as nested queries or subqueries. So let's understand that how it will work. I have modified our previous query like this. If you look at this query, I didn't have any joins in this query. I'm having a bunch of where conditions. Other than that, I am not having any join conditions. But we will try to achieve what we have achieved using joins. So this method is called subqueries or nested queries. When we will understand why it is called nested queries, let's read out our SQL query first. I am selecting first name and last name from my actors table. So this is my actors table. I'm getting first name and last name. This is good. Where this id in, and after in I am having a parenthesis here. Okay, remember this parenthesis, and inside this parenthesis I am having a select statement again. So this is the first time you guys are looking at select statement inside select statement, right? So this is like a for loop inside for loop. I'm having a select statement, and without ending this SQL query, I'm having another select statement inside this. Now select actor ID. So this is my actor ID from roles table. This is my roles table where movie ID is in. So we are looking for in operator again. We will understand what is this in operator, and I'm having parenthesis again. And inside this parenthesis, I'm having select again. Okay, select ID. So this is the ID column from movies table where name is 100 decent dissolves. So this is a complex SQL query. Let's understand what is happening. In the previous joins query, we have seen that we have to join these two columns, and then we have to join these two columns, and then at the end we have to do a where condition. This is by using joins. Now we want to achieve the same thing using without joins. So what I'm doing, I'm using these three tables and I am linking these tables using where conditions. Now let's understand how this will work. So if you see, I have select here, select here, select here. So it's like for loop inside for loop inside for loop. So this is why we call them as subqueries, or you can call them as nested queries as well. So there are multiple names to it, but let's go with subqueries or nested queries. It's anything is fine. Now, how to debug these nested queries? By looking at this, you might feel complex, but let's break it down into smaller chunks. So whenever you see a subquery or nested query, you have to go to the innermost query first. If you look at this whole query, so this is the last parenthesis, right? As we go inside. So this is our last parenthesis, and this is my last query, which is our innermost query. And then this is our the next innermost query, and this is our outer query. And whenever someone shows you a subquery, first let's go with the inner query. And if you look at only the inner query, I'm doing select ID and from movies table. So I will get a table in which I have only one column called ID because I'm only selecting ID. And from this movies table, I am only selecting the records in which movie name is 100 decents resource. We have learned about where condition, right? So it is a very easy SQL query. We are just using a where condition on top of a single table. So what I'm doing, I'm getting all the IDs. It could be only one ID or multiple IDs for all the records in which the movie name is 100 decent source. So let's call it as table 1. So this is our output for the innermost query. So the output for this one is one table which is of ID in which we have the filtering as name equal to 100 decent source. Now go back to the next query, which is select. I'm doing actor ID from my roles table where movie ID inside this table. So if you remember in the join section, we have to join these two tables by movie ID and ID, right? So that's what I'm doing. I'm selecting all the records from this roles table in which my movie ID is inside this query. And what is this query? This query is basically filtering off for this movie table. Now we get all the actor IDs for which they acted in this movie called 100 Decent Disorders. But this actor ID should be linked to this table to get the first name and last name, right? That's what I'm doing. Select first name and last name from my actors table. So this is the actors table where this ID inside your output. So let's assume I have this actor ID as an output and this is of table 2. So I'm doing this where ID inside this table 2. So at the end, what am I going to get? I'm going to get the first name and last name for all the actors who have acted in the movie called 100 Decent Disorders. It's a complex SQL query, but let me rephrase it again so that it will be easy for you to understand. So look at the innermost query first. Select ID from movies where name is this one. This is a simple where condition. You get output as table 1, and we have the column as id because you are only selecting id. And let's go to the next query, which is select actor id. So it will return you one table in which we have only one column called actor id because we are only selecting one from my roles table, where this movie id should be present inside this table. That's what we are doing. This is basically joining these two tables, right? And then from the first query we are saying select first name and last name. So I will get an output like this, so which is of first name and last name from the actors table, where the id corresponding to that actor should be present inside this actor id. And what is this actor id? All the ids in which the name is 100% DSOS. So likewise, without using joins, we can achieve the same output by using a nested subqueries. So this is like a subquery. If you look at this one, this is a query, and this is another query, and this is another query. It is basically like query inside a query. So that is why we call them as subqueries. Hopefully you understand that. Now, is there any other way of doing the same thing? So if you look at this query, I have modified this. I have had a subquery here. If you look at it, I have a select inside select, and I have parenthesis here, and I have a condition here. Okay, these are all the rules for subqueries. And inside this subquery, I am having a join condition. So this might look a little bit squarey, but let me help you understand what is happening. So what I'm doing anyway, as I mentioned before, whenever you are having a subqueries, you have to look at the innermost query. So this is my innermost query now. I'm doing select r dot actor id from my roles table, and I'm doing a join on movies table, and these two should be joined on movie id and m dot id, right? And I'm filtering for this name 100 desin DSOS. So this will return you a table in which I get only actor id, and these actor id are for the actors who have acted in this movie because I'm doing a join on movies table, right? And on top of this, we have another query in which I'm selecting first name and last name from my actors table, and the id should be present inside this actors id. So whatever all the actor ids that are present inside this, I'm going to get my first name and last name. That's how we can mix and match subqueries and joins. So these are all the complex and advanced topics of SQL. And if you find it a little bit hard, I would suggest you to take pen and paper and write this down and understand what is happening at a high level, and then execute in the SQL workbench to understand the output as well. So there is one more thing left, which is we are learning new, is called in operator, right? We have seen where in operator, right? It is basically, let's say I have select star from actors where id in 1 2 3. So this is basically like where id equal to 1 or id equal to 2 or id equal to 3. Instead of doing these three conditions, I'm just specifying where id inside either 1 2 3. If id is 1 or 2 or 3, it is going to return. We have learned this in the previous videos, right, in operator. So that's what we are doing. Now let me give you a high level overview of what we have learned so that it will be easy for you to understand. Okay, so this is our task, which is what are the names of actors who have played in the movie title 100 Days in the Soils. So to get this data, we are looking at three tables: actors tables, movies tables, and roles table. And we have to link all of these tables, right? So that is why we have joined these three tables to get the desired output. So I'm doing select a dot first name, last name on actors, roles, and movies. I'm doing multiple joins on all of these tables, and I'm applying a where condition on top of it. And we can achieve the same thing using a concept called subqueries, in which we will not use any of these joins, and then we can get the same desired output by using nested queries. And we can mix and match subqueries with joins as well. So these are all the complex topics. Now let's move back to our SQL workbench and execute all of these and understand the output. Now let's get on to our SQL workbench. I'm using IMDb dataset, and if you remember, I'm doing a three table join here. This is the same query that we have learned in the first part of this video, and let me execute this and see the output. So these are all the actors in which their first name and last name is this one, and they all acted in this movie called 100 Decins Disorders. So we have only 4 actors data, right? Now let's achieve the same output without using joins by using subqueries. So this is the same subquery that we have learned in the first part of this video. Let me execute this and I get the same output. Now let's break this down into normal queries and understand what is happening. If I execute this innermost query, I get an output as only one record in which I have the ID value as 679. So, and what is this ID value? This is for the movie called 100 Days in SOS. So this is basically a simple where condition, right? And I have to select actor ID from my roles table in which movie ID should be 679. So that's how where condition will work. So if I execute this one, select actor ID, roles and movie ID in 679. So basically the second query. And if I execute this, I'm going to get all the actor IDs who have acted for this movie. But at the top, I need to get the first name and last name, right? So what I'm doing, I'm selecting first name and last name from actors where ID in all of these tables. And if I execute this, I get the first name and last name. So instead of we doing or splitting into multiple queries, we can write everything in a single query. That is what we call them as a subqueries. So if you have any queries or if you have any doubts while building a subquery, I would highly suggest you to first go into the innermost query and execute it and understand the output, and then apply the next query on top of this output and apply the next query on top of this output. So you have to debug from the innermost query to the outermost query. So that is when you will get experience in understanding, creating and debugging subqueries. It is a very easy concept because whatever we have learned in the previous videos, we are just mixing and matching with other combinations, right? It is not a complex topic, but people make it complex. Now let's try the last combination in which we use subquery and join as well. And if I execute this, I get the same output. And as I mentioned before, whenever you are having subqueries, you have to execute the innermost query. Now let's execute this. I get a bunch of actor IDs because of this join table. And then I'm doing a filter on my actors table to have all of these actor IDs. I get the output. So that's all, guys. And that's all for this video, guys. It's a complex topic, but I hope I made this complex topic very easy to understand, and I hope I made it very easy for you to visualize how it will work. And one last tip is, whenever you are having subqueries or nested queries, it is always mandatory or recommended to go from the innermost query to the outermost query. And if you want to create or debug these things, execute each query individually and understand the output, and on top of each output build up another query on top of it. It is very easy topic, guys, just little bit complex for you to understand if you don't have a clear understanding. And if you learned something new from this video, a sub to channel would be appreciated, and click that bell icon to get notified daily. And we'll meet in the next video. Bye bye.